My favourite song. We were asked to say what our favourite song was to come up to, and that song, the title is "I Try," and I will try to make sure I stay well within my time, because I know the last speaker before lunch is always not necessarily looked upon as the best speaker when people are hungry. So I will certainly try and stay within my time. So first of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity of coming here again to the conference. Last time I was here, I learnt a lot, and I'm sure, and I am learning a lot again. Although we've had the Special Constabulary or volunteer policing in the UK since the 1800s, we still learn, and we must go on learning. And this conference is a fantastic opportunity for us to learn and to share best practice. We've heard the statement already: the police are the public and the public are the police, mentioned by Jimmy quite a bit in his speech, and it is very much that is the case. Certainly in our aim is to police by consent, and to police by consent you have to be working with the public, and integration with the public and the police is very important. So Sir Robert Peel's seventh principle of policing, the police are the public and the public are the police, really does hold true. So the Special Constabulary is the term that's used for volunteer police officers in the UK. We are actually moving away from using that term and actually now saying volunteer police officers. So if you go onto the Metropolitan Police's website, it used to say Special Constables, it now says volunteer police officers, because it's clearer that actually what we do is we are volunteers, we are unpaid, but we are police officers. So volunteer police officers in the UK have exactly the same powers of arrest and do exactly the same job as the regular police officers, as professional police officers. There are a couple of things we don't do. None of us are trained as dog handlers. I don't know why that is, but that's one thing. And no volunteer police officer carries a firearm. But within London, only very few police officers carry firearms anyway, and that is that our policing by consent. We don't need to carry arms, thankfully. So within England and Wales, and it's England and Wales because Scotland has its own legislation, but within England and Wales, there's 43 different police forces, but every police force has volunteer police officers, and every police force trains them to the same degree as their regular officers, and every police force uses them for engaging with the public, community policing, and some police forces use them within specialist areas. And the Met is very good at actually using people's skills to help combat crime by using police officers in specialist roles. So our role really is to help. That's what we want to do, is to support our professional colleagues and to help our regular colleagues in any way that we can. So within the Met, we have the officers who work within communities. We have officers who work within specialist crime. We have officers who work within the Marine Support Unit on the boats on the Thames, and they're trained up to the same level as the regular colleagues, and they're trained to the Port of London Authority master level, so they're fully competent in mastering craft on the Thames. We have a roads policing unit where they are trained specifically on a number of different vehicles. All volunteer police officers can be police drivers. We use the same and drive the same vehicles as our regular colleagues. And so roads policing and roads policing, they have more in-depth knowledge in terms of legislation around traffic and vehicles, so they specialise in that. And public order, so we have volunteer police officers who are trained to deal with public order. So if you see in the pictures people with the full face NATO helmets and the overalls and everything else, we have volunteer police officers who are trained to deal with full riot and full public order situations. So in terms of the Met, we're very well integrated with the regular colleagues. If you make a phone call, if you dial 999 as it is in London, who turns up at your door, you will not be able to tell whether it's a volunteer police officer or a regular police officer. Same uniform, carrying CS gas, dealing with the situation exactly the same as if it was a regular colleague. So we are really completely integrated into the force. We do, though, still remain as such members of our community. So to be a volunteer police officer in London, you have to be a UK resident and have lived in the UK for 3 years, a minimum of 3 years. So we can draw from a very wide range of diverse backgrounds. So the volunteer police officers in London, nearly a fifth of them are from visible black or other ethnic backgrounds. So we call them BME, black and mixed ethnic backgrounds. So the Special Constabulary as a group of people more properly reflects the society that it actually serves. Our regular colleagues are trying really hard to recruit to be more representative of the community, but at the moment I think it's about only 6%. So the Special Constabulary is very much still within the community and drawn from the community and working with the community. It's a really good bridge, and if there is a problem within a community, then generally speaking there will be a special constable or volunteer police officer who comes from that community, who has knowledge both of problems within the community but also how the police can best deal with it, and often are called on to act as a conduit and to help work with that community. And it is great that it is very, very much still community based. It is volunteering, and it is professional volunteering because of the level of training that we receive. So what do people deal with? Everything. As with police forces, I think across the world now, we sometimes look upon ourselves as being part social worker, part referee, part advisor, and sometimes we actually deal with crime. An awful lot of the time we deal with mental health issues, people with mental health issues, antisocial behaviour caused by drink and drugs. Drugs is very much on the rise in the UK. So anything really that a member of the public will call us for, we will deal with it. Once, a long time ago, I went to deal with an emergency call with a distressed old lady, and when I finally got to understand what her problem was, she thought our helicopter had broken down because it was static in the air above her house, and it was actually looking for suspects, but she thought it had broken down. So, but it was a good call to go to. Within specialist crime, it is becoming more and more complex. So it is 10 plus years ago, we set up units of people who've got the skills in industry or in academia to work very closely with the specialist units for a particular crime. Police officers cannot be cybercrime experts because that's not their everyday job. But a cybercrime expert can be sworn in as a volunteer police officer, and you immediately have that expertise there to be able to assist you. So within the specialist units, we cover everything from art and antiques, which is my particular expertise, right through to wildlife crime. So almost the whole A to Z of policing. Wildlife crime is very much on the increase. Rhino horn now is worth gram for gram more than twice what you would pay for cocaine or heroin or anything like that. So rhino horn is being trafficked through London, and again, it's one of these sort of specialist areas that as a police officer you may not have that expertise, but some member of the public who's community minded can come and work together with you as a warranted officer and actually help deal with that crime using their specialist knowledge. Fraud, we have a number of forensic accountants who, if the Met buys in expertise from Deloitte's and various other companies and pays £500 a day for a consultant, we, within the Special Constabulary, we have volunteer police officers who are forensic accountants, and every one of those forensic accountants has had commendations from judges because they've managed to present evidence in court in a way that the jury can understand it, because they are members of the public and they know how intense it can be for someone trying to understand a complex fraud. But volunteer police officers seem to have the ability to be able to explain that in a very easy way, and we've secured a very large number of convictions, and from that the money is seized under the Proceeds of Crime Act, and that comes back into the Met. But I'll go on to funding in a moment. What do I do? When I was asked to give a presentation, I was asked to say a little bit about what I do. So, as I say, my specialism is art and antiques, and my favourite case is actually the hand of Saddam, and that's me struggling to hold Saddam's hand. So one of the things we were tasked with was at the time of the Iraq War was there was a flood of items that had been looted and were passing through London, and there's a UN sanction that prevents the trade in cultural objects. So I picked up some chatter on the web about the hand from the statue that was pulled down, was been brought illegally back to the UK and was being auctioned off amongst the bad people, and it had reached £400,000, I think, when I identified who'd got it, and I went and took it off them, and they were not very happy. But that's what I do. And that picture actually was of me at the Iraqi embassy just before I handed it back to the ambassador, and that's now in the museum back in Iraq. So importantly, how we are funded, because I've heard it's been really good today to hear how the structure and funding of the auxiliary police has moved on so very much in the last 5 years. That's really very encouraging, and and it sounds like it really is being done in the most professional way with proper engagement, and that's fortunately what we have. We're funded by two main ways. Local government and central government provide our funding. So central government will give a set budget to each of the 43 police forces throughout England and Wales. Each of those forces will then decide how they're going to use that budget, and the special constabulary or volunteer policing is very much part of the budgetary process. A lot of it is not actually funded separately. So the training that we do, certainly within the Metropolitan Police Force, is just the same training as the regular officers. So when we do our twice yearly recertification for officer safety, it will be a mixed class. It'll be some volunteer police officers, some of our regular colleagues. When we do driving courses, it's the same. Any courses that we go on, it's mixed classes of volunteer officers and regular officers. The uniform, again, is exactly the same. Our equipment is exactly the same. So all that just comes out of the budget for uniform training, and that is provided by central and local government. We do have a certain amount of protection. We don't get paid. We can claim expenses if we wish. Most volunteer officers don't claim their expenses because they're doing it because they're volunteering, they want to give something back. But we are covered by insurance. If you're injured on duty, then your loss of earnings from your ordinary day job will be paid by the police force up to a certain limit. So if you're a multi-millionaire and you say your salary is £1 million a day, you don't get that. But equally, if you have a long-term injury, you're covered by the government in terms of being properly funded. The other aspect that's really important is that the public are very quick now to make complaints, and we are insured by the central government that if anybody makes a complaint against us, we will have proper protection in terms of proper legal representation, and all our legal costs are actually covered. So that is very important in terms of protection for officers. The only other thing we get is some police forces, the local areas, the local funding will provide what they call a bounty, so a tax-free sum once a year. I think the highest anyone gets is about £1,000. In London, the mayor pays us £150 from our tax that we have to pay our local rates. So every April we get £150 back from the rates that we've actually paid. Just before I wrap up, and I'm keeping very much to time because I know it's very close to lunchtime. I know it's not questions and answers now, but please do come and speak to me at any time, and I will do my best to explain what we do, how we do it, and that. But it's been really interesting to see just how different it remains everywhere, but how people seem to have woken up to the idea now that the community has to be part and parcel of the policing, and the policing by consent and working with the community is really the way forward for everybody. And so thank you very much.